it's lovely. I feel like I feel like I grew up. I became a man in Glasgow many times.
Do you want to go into the detail?
Thank you.
You went to drama school, I think, quite young, and so you graduated when...
I was 17 when I went, so I was 20 when I graduated.
Yeah, so you were very young. And I remember seeing you, I think it was around about 83 or 84, and it was the beginnings of Victor and Barry, I think, with Forbes Masson.
Yes.
And so you always seemed to be quite diverse, because you were doing that, but you were also, I'm not quite sure of the chronology, but you also had a role in Take the High Road, the Scottish TV soap.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's almost like a rite of passage, isn't it, for Scottish actors, that you've got to be in Taggart at some point. What are your memories of working in that?
In Taggart?
Yeah. Who was your character? Do you remember? I was
called Jamie something, and there was always the structure of Taggart was always so similar. It was always like for 2 3/4 episodes. It was always a 3-part thing, you know. And then so until you got to like the last quarter of the 3rd episode, you thought it was someone, and in the last 15 minutes you're like, holy shit, it's someone else altogether. And so in my one, I was the one you thought it was for like, and Taggart thought it was for, hours and hours. And I was like, I worked in a chemist shop, and Ralph Riech was my boss, who'd been at drama. Ralph was at drama school. He was a year above me at drama school, which is another story because he was 46. Do you all know who Ralph is? Of course. It's legend of the Scottish stage. He was this guy. He went to drama school when he was 46. He'd been an upholsterer and something else, and he decided to give it all up and go to drama school. And he's a grumpy old shit of a man. And he would not mind me saying that, because he still is. Like, he's absolutely, like, when he's now, he was 46, I was 17, so that, obviously he's in his 80s now. And he came to see my show. He's never changed. That's the great thing about him. He's never, ever changed. And he came to see my Alan Cumming Sings Happy Songs show at the Edinburgh Festival. And I went into the bar just waiting for the lambasting that I was going to get. I knew there was going to be, and I just thought, what new curse kind of combination can he do? And he said, I went, okay, Ralph, bring it. And he went, I'm just going to say, is there nothing the can't do? So that's Ralph.
That's a great title of a book.
Isn't it a good? That's my next memoir. And so when he was with him, like, it was like having your dad at drama school the year above you. Like, if you slept in for, if you missed a class or something, you'd be in the bar like, ah ha ha, and someone come and go, Ralph wants to talk to you. And you're like, what? And you'd go over, you'd be brought in front of me and go, do you know how many people would like to have this place at drama school? Don't you waste your time. Many people like to be in your position. So he was a really kind of, really parental figure. Anyway, so when I did Taggart, he was my boss in this chemist shop, and Julie Graham was my girlfriend, and I was accused of I guess I murdered someone. I can't quite remember what I was accused of, but a murder. It's been a murder, of course it was. How could I forget? And then I was wrongly accused, and there was a hilarious scene where my first nude scene, because and it was Stuart Hepburn, and he was the policeman, and that other tall boy, I can't remember his name now, but they were the junior detectives, and they had to come round to my house and take my clothes away for forensic evidence. And of course, instead of them just going and changing and giving them my clothes, I of course ripped them off in a fury and was completely naked. And at the time, it was at STV, the old Kirkcaldy studios, and Robert Love was the head of drama, and he was this funny man with a cravat and a kind of little moustache. And Victor and Barry used to say that they had a timeshare cravat scheme with him, because and remember, he made an announcement I was going to have to do this nude scene. I'd never done one before, and they were like, ladies and gentlemen, would everyone who is non-essential crew move out of the studio? It's a closed set, as Alan will be showing his pedendum. And I didn't even know what a pedendum was, and I was apparently going to be showing it. And I was like, what? And he was up in the gallery, and you couldn't see him, and it's just this voice coming over the speakers. And it was kind of a great but awful moment, because all the crew were like, oh, like that. And they were, and having to leave their stations and take their bags and go off. And one of them says, oh, doesn't matter, we're going to make up and watch you on the monitor anyway. So I got naked for no reason at all. And it was so funny because Stuart Hepburn goes like this, his eyes like this, and then I slowed it down to prove to him that he did this. He kind of goes. He takes a fly look.
Well, let's see that nude scene. No. In slow-mo.
You know, the thing I remember most about that is that it's a good trick, actually. Mark McManus, sadly, no longer with us, Mark McManus, if he would come in of a morning and just say he'd had a drink the night before, and his eyes were a bit puffy, he would do this thing, and one time I was in makeup with him, and they went, Alan, go to the canteen and ask, the lady for some slices of raw potato. And I was like, what? And it's like 7 o'clock in the morning, like, go. And so I had to go and say, I'm from makeup. And they go, you want the raw potato? and so, Ian, you put raw potato on your puffy eyes, and it somehow I don't know what it does, soaks up or something, and the puffiness goes away. So that's
top
a trick.
Tips.
A top tip, alcoholic tip there from Taggart.
The thing is, it's easy to kind of feel kind of like, nostalgia, or maybe you kind of laugh a little seeing you all those years ago with your gorgeous dark hair and so terribly young. Yeah. But your acting's really, really good. I just wondered, making that transition from, theatre school to maybe a different kind of acting in television, how easy did you find that? And how much were you trained for that at the RSAMD?
Well, none, zero. I mean, that was the thing I was saying earlier, but not just the accent.
Yeah.
And then we didn't really there's no sort of, it was mostly all theatre training, which was great, but there was really no, again, I think it was that I just hit it at a certain time. There was much more sort of, contemporary film and TV starting to happen in Scotland.
So were you just learning as you did it then?
Totally learning on the job,
Is that good? Is that a good way of doing it?
Yes, actually, because, it wasn't like I understood the concept of, pretending to be someone else and meaning it. But, doing it for the camera, I had no experience of it all. And luckily, thanks to Scottish television, I got a lot of experience early on. And I really did feel that, I got to practice and get a bit better at it.
Did you have any grand plan at that point? Because it's quite something. You'd won a prize at the Academy, you're in television, you're doing theatre as well. Were you very ambitious at that stage and have a goal in mind that you want to achieve?
My goal, when I left drama school, my goal was to work at the Citizens Theatre. I still haven't.
That could happen.
It could still happen, maybe. They've asked me since. I've been asked, but seriously, because when I was at drama school, it was the time of Charles Havergal and Philip Prowse and Robert David MacDonald, and it was just an amazing time of all these incredibly designed, all these plays by European writers from all over the world, but all these European, like Pirandello, and just these amazing things I saw that my mind was so opened up by them, and I just so wanted to be a part of it, and I never was. but that really was my big ambition. And then I remember thinking maybe one day, when I started being an actual actor, I thought maybe one day I'll move to London. That was sort of like not necessarily for a specific thing, but that maybe my trajectory might take me there. So the life I have now is completely alien to what I thought things were going to be like.
But it's interesting because, because this is a BAFTA event, so we're focusing on film and television, but with your career more than others, I think it's impossible to sort of have the strands completely separate.
Yeah.
And it always strikes me about your career, and I was lucky enough to see you in The Conquest of the South Pole, this Manfred Karga play, which was on in the late 80s.
88.
88, thank you, at the Traverse in Edinburgh, and then it transferred to London. And I always remember seeing you come out, and you've spoken so brilliantly about this, it's almost something, I think, in the Scottish DNA of actors, that you can just come straight out, see the whites of their eyes, and almost address the audience and be unafraid. And there's a line from that to something like you being in the MC in Cabaret.
Totally.
So with those, it seems to me that there was, you had big breaks with theatre that then exposed you to a wider audience and took you off into to movies.
I think that's absolutely right. And even, it was theatre that took me to London, and then because of, doing some plays there, I got noticed and started doing films and things. And actually, even when I went to America, I'd done a couple of films in Hollywood, but it was actually doing Cabaret on Broadway that kind of made me famous in America. And so it's always been theatre that has been the stepping stone for new.
Because all sorts of influential people saw you in cabaret, didn't they? And
yes.
And so it's like almost like huge casting call in a way. It's kind of like, look at this guy and what
I
he
guess.
can do.
If you're in a big hit show on Broadway, yeah, it is kind of. And also, sort of, that show is so sort of. I wish it was on now. I really wish it was on now, because it would be so pertinent. It was we did it. I did it again a couple of years ago, or a year and a half ago, and it was the time of the Olympics, when all the anti-gay stuff was going on in Russia, and all these, all these things were happening in the world that seemed that a show about making sure you're vigilant about the rise of extremism, and also the necessity to embrace difference and the other, and not shun it and make it into the enemy. That seemed really relevant, but now, of course, both here and in America, it seems even more relevant.